Is it PPT is visible now? PPT is visible? Okay, okay. Okay, we'll continue. So I'll give a brief introduction for axisymmetric problem that already we have discussed yesterday. So when you say axis symmetry, there are three important aspects you have to remember. One is the geometry should be symmetric about z-axis or some x-axis or y-axis. The second one is the loading is also should be symmetric. If you consider this conical object, if load is acting on only one side, left side of the axis, then you cannot analyze this as an axis symmetry problem because the loading is not symmetric. And third point is boundary condition. Suppose only left side, this portion is constrained without constraining the right side, then again it is not belongs to axis symmetry problem. So that means three important aspect you have to remember when you come to axis symmetry. The first one is the geometry should be axis symmetry. Second, the loading should be symmetric. Third point is boundary condition also symmetry. So example of axisymmetric are you can see these figures. This is a one more example for axisymmetry. It is subject to internal traction force T. You are going to derive the expression for traction force. So instead of considering a complete solid, you are considering only the small portion of the solid. This is the z direction. Now when you come to the displacement, there are two displacement. One displacement along the radial direction. The displacement along radial direction is given by u, and one more displacement along z direction or longitudinal direction, that is given by w. We have displacement vector u is equal to uw. Then similarly there is a traction force. The traction force is best example you can remember is friction force. So whenever one surface slides over another surface, there is a friction force. The friction force is the example for the traction force. We can understand better. So friction force may be acting in the upward direction, x direction, or y direction, or z direction. So in this case, the friction force may be acting along the r direction, or it may act along z direction. That's why we have traction force, the tr and tz. Then one more force acting on the body is body force. The body force may be acting along the radial direction. Suppose if you consider the flywheel, as flywheel rotates, there is a centrifugal force. The centrifugal force is acting in the radial direction, that is the Fr. And if there is a Fz, so Fz is nothing but the body force acting along the z direction. Suppose you have the tall chimney or cooling tower in the case of a thermal power plant, there may be, because of the self weight, the whole structure is subject to the loading. That is nothing but Fz. The Fz is mainly because of the gravitation force. If you consider tall chimney or the cooling tower in the power plant, so where Fz refer to the body force because of the gravity or because of the self weight. Then point load, you are familiar with the point load. Point load may act at any point. This is one more example for the axis symmetry that I am not going to discuss details about it. Already we have discussed yesterday. We have derived stiffness matrix in general form. This is one more example for axis symmetric element. So again, in the case of axis symmetric, there may be internal pressure because it's a cylindrical cylinder. The cylinder is when cylinder, so loading is the symmetry, the boundary condition is also symmetry, and geometry is also again symmetric about z direction. The internal pressure acting in the radial direction. You can see the P is acting in the radial direction. There is a uniform axial pressure Q. It is acting in the z direction. So, instead of the modeling the complete cylinder, So only small portion of the cylinder can be modeled for axisymmetry element. So this is one more conical object. This is a final. They consider as an axisymmetric body. They analyzed. Now these are the different example. We have a cylinder carrying or pipe carrying the high pressure gases or fluid, etc. So instead of considering complete the cylinder, so we can consider only the small portion, this rectangle portion, the between Ri and R0, and having the length L. You are not going to consider the complete solid. You are considering only small portion. The infinite cylinder is nothing but a long, very very long cylinder. The length of the cylinder is very very high compared to the diameter. Then such type of cylinders are referred as the infinite cylinder. One more is press fit on rigid shaft. We imagine you have the rigid shaft. It is fitted into the sleeve or hollow cylinder. This cylinder, hollow cylinder. Then there may be deformation along the radial direction. Most of the time, there is no change in dimension along the longitudinal direction. There may be the deformation along radial direction. So that means the imagine this is a small portion. Imagine this portion is taken here. So that can move in the outward direction or in the radial direction. The horizontal direction is nothing but a radial direction here. This is Ri and this is R0. So it may, whenever it is press fit, so there may be increase in diameter of the sleeve. So to increase in the diameter, the material should flow along the radial direction. The deformation along radial direction is given by U. This is one more example, cylinder, hollow cylinder. So instead of considering the complete hollow cylinder, we are considering only small portion between Ri and R0 and having length. We are analyzing only this part. We are not going to model the complete cylinder. It requires more time, more space also. So whenever the shaft is fitted into the sleeve, there may be deformation. The deformation is at node 1. Here node 1 is referred as node I, is Qi. Node 2, it is referred as Qj. The net deformation is Qj minus Q1 or Q1 minus Q2. Same thing is shown here. So we are discussing the Bellwell is a spring. So these things you studied in design also. So it is also comes under axisymmetry. Loading is axis because you can see this is a axisymmetric loading also. So instead of consider complete arrangement, you are considering only small portion. This is the cross-section view. So even though you are not considering the left side also, you are considering only the right side of the Belleville spring. This is the actual photograph. This is one more schematic diagram. This is inner diameter, top diameter, outer diameter is OD, and height is H. This is one more diagram which shows the Belleville disc spring. It is also referred as a disc because it is the springs are available in the form of disc. So this is a schematic diagram of Belleville spring, and loading is applied in the vertical direction P. So this can move. This particular point can move along vertical direction. There is a Z movement. The vertical direction movement is given by deformation is given by W. So we have Z direction. The deformation along Z direction is given by W. So this same the rectangular small cross section can move along radial direction also, but this end is fixed. This bottom is fixed here, so there is no vertical movement. But in this point, it can move along the radial direction that is given by R. This point also moves along radial direction as well as vertical direction. So now already you have derived the stiffness matrix. So when you derive the stiffness matrix, you are considering the potential energy functional. The potential energy function consists of strain energy and work potential. We have the expression for the strain energy. The strain energy is nothing but area below stress strain curve within the elastic limit or proportional limit. So when you derive the stiffness matrix, irrespective of the type of element, whether it is a axisymmetric element or bar element or beam element, you are considering only the strain energy term. So now this is the strain energy term. The first term is strain energy term. So dV is nothing but when you come to axisymmetry. So dV is nothing but perimeter into area. The perimeter is 2 pi r, and area of the small cross section is dA. Then when you derive stiffness matrix, you are considering only the strain energy term. You are not considering the work potential term. We have work potential term here. Work potential because of body force F. Already you have derived the equation for body force F. and one more is there is a work done because of traction force T. So today you are going to derive the expression for traction force T. Just 1 minute. There's okay. So we have K. So we don't get any matrix because it matrix become more complex. B matrix is a complex matrix. D is again 4/6 matrix. So B is again more complex matrix. So only thing is what you have to write. What is NE? NE is equal to N1 0, N2 0, N3 0, 0, N1 0, N2 0, N3. So displacement is vector is given by U and W. The displacement U is along the radial direction. Hence, for your understanding, I have written U subscript R that indicate that the displacement along radial direction. So one more is displacement along axial direction or longitudinal direction. It is given by W Z. Why I given subscript Z is that indicate that W refer to deformation along Z direction. You are considering axisymmetric triangular element. It is not like your x coordinate and y coordinate. For the most of the triangular element, we have x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3, x1, y1, x2, y2, and x3, y3. But there is a difference between plane triangular element and axis symmetry triangular element. In the case of axis symmetric triangular element, so now you are considering this is a z axis. Here I am not showing that z axis. We can see here in the previous diagram because those derivation is required. This is the z axis. Imagine we have a small rectangular section. This rectangular section can be divided into smaller and smaller triangular element. So this particular triangular element, imagine this is a small triangular element. It has radius r and height z. So that means when you come to axisymmetric triangular element, this is the axisymmetric triangular element. The coordinate or one coordinate is radius and one more coordinate is height or z coordinate. R1, Z1, R2, Z2, R3, Z3. If it is a plane triangular element, or it is also referred as CST element, constant strain triangular element. It is only x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. But when you come to the axisymmetry, the coordinate of the triangle are radius and height or the dimension along z direction. Then when you come to axisymmetry, there are four strain component. One is strain along the radial direction. So one more is strain along the z direction or axial direction. So one more is shear strain along rz direction, and one more is the strain along circumferential direction or along the that is normally referred as hoop stress. So correspondingly for the hoop stress we'll get hoop strain. Then there is a one more matrix that is J matrix. As per your syllabus, no need to derive the J matrix. The J is nothing but Jacobian matrix. So Jacobian is nothing but imagine we have the strain in x the r and z coordinate, but we require strain in the natural coordinate. In such cases, to map from natural coordinate to the global coordinate, we required one more mapping matrix. That particular mapping matrix is referred as Jacobian matrix. The Jacobian matrix is studied in mathematics, but when you come to finite element analysis, to map from global coordinate to local coordinate or local coordinate to global coordinate, you are using the Jacobian. We have R13, it is a short form. R13 is nothing but R1 minus R3. So imagine this is R1 and this is R3. The radius at node 3 is R3. The radius at node 1 is R1. R13 is nothing but R1 minus R3. So imagine we have Z13. So Z13 is Z1 minus Z3. The Z coordinate at node 1 minus Z coordinate at node 3. Once you know the coordinate point, we can get the Jacobian matrix. This is the B matrix that already we have discussed. When you come to axisymmetric triangular element, we have shape function. We have derived shape function for N1, N2, N3, we are derived for Hermite functions H1, H2, H3, H4. That is slightly complex shape function because the whole beam bend. So it is minimum to represent the bending of the beam. Minimum we have to go for cubical function, the cubic polynomial. Hermite shape function belongs to cubic polynomial. But when you come to axisymmetric triangular element, so you are going for the linear deformation. So whenever there is a linear deformation, shape function can be expressed by simple term. So n1 is equal to xi, so n2 is equal to zeta, and n3 is equal to 1 minus xi minus zeta. Then finally we get the K matrix. This is the equation for the K matrix. That if you remember this equation sufficient. If you are able to remember B matrix, you can write B matrix. You first write on the transpose the B matrix, then D matrix as well as B matrix. So now the body force vector, there are four important force terms. So one is body force vector, body force. So one more is traction force, and one more is point load. The body example for the body force is centrifugal force, the centrifugal force, and the self weight. So cooling tower of the power plant, it is a very tall structure. It is analyzed considering as a axisymmetry. So in such cases, there may be self weight. The self weight comes under body force or weight. The force due to gravitation force comes under the body force. So again, we required the U transfer. Body force is work done because of the body force is given by force into distance. So force is nothing but body force. The distance is nothing but displacement vector. So when you come to U, the displacement along the radial direction. U refer to displacement along radial direction. Q1, Q3, and Q5 are the displacement along radial direction. In the vertical direction, the displacement vector is given by W. So W is given by N1, Q1, Q2. Vertical direction displacements are Q2, Q4, and Q6. So from that we can get expression for the body force. So you have the body force vector Fr and Fz. So Fr correspond to body force along the radial direction. The best example is, imagine the rotation of the flywheel. We have centrifugal force. The centrifugal force acting in the radial direction, that is nothing but Fr. If you consider the cooling tower of thermal power plant, conical cooling tower, it has huge amount of weight, self weight, normally referred as self weight. The self weight, so that is nothing but Z direction, because if you consider cooling tower, the vertical direction is a Z direction. There is a self weight is also acting. So sometimes it may collapse also. If it is not strong, the cooling tower may collapse. Recently, one of the power plant, it is collapsed in India only. I forgotten the name of the power plant. The complete cooling tower, it is collapsed because of excessive pressure, and it is Fz. So finally, we get one equation: Fr, Fz, Fr, Fz, Fr, Z, N1, N1, N2, N2, N1, N2. That is the equation for the body force vector. So this is the, no need to derive all those equations, but the integration of N1 into dA is equal to A by 3. Like that, we have three equations that are already. Finally, we have the equation for body force: 2 pi R bar A divided by 3. So suppose 2 pi R is nothing but perimeter, into A refer to volume. So into A refer to volume. So then volume into force, that is nothing but your body force. The total volume self weight is distributed in for 3 nodes, because there are triangular element, there are 3 nodes. So imagine total weight is 900 kg. So for 300 kg is acting on one node, another 300 kg is acting on another node, another 300 kg is acting on another node. So hence we have divided by 3. So now when you come to actual axisymmetric problem here, so this is the axisymmetric problem. Imagine you have the cylinder. So one is radial direction, one more is longitudinal direction Z. So it is, strictly speaking, it is a 3-dimension. You have cone is a 3-dimensional object, and power plant chimney is also 3-dimensional object. So I am talking about the flywheel. It is again a 3-dimensional object. So it has, even though it has 3 dimension, in finite element analysis, you are not considering as a 3-dimensional analysis. So hence you are going for the one more, we are neglecting one more dimension. Neglecting the sense, we are assuming that the stress in the radial, in the circumferential remain, the direction remains same. Suppose stress about this point. Imagine stress about this point is 250 megapascal. Here also it is 250. Here also it is 250. Here also 250, because the loading is symmetric. So when loading is symmetric, so once you know the stress about this point, stress irrespective of the angle theta, the stress remains constant and strain also remains constant. So only along the radial direction or direction. If a stress is 0 here at the center, r is equal to 0, stress may be maximum at r is equal to the outermost radius r naught. So stress along z direction will also varies. The stress along z direction varies. Stress along a radial direction also varies, but stress or strain along the tangential direction or circumferential direction is remains constant irrespective of the angle theta. If theta is 90 degree, imagine the stress is 100 megapascal here. Stress about this point is again 100 megapascal. Here also it is 100 megapascal. Here also it is 100 megapascal. The irrespective of the angle theta, so stress remains constant, or you can say that the stress in the axisymmetry object or problem is independent of theta. So because loading is symmetry, the geometry is also symmetry, boundary condition also symmetric, hence so variation of the stress in the theta direction is so 0 or nil. The stress remains constant or strain remains constant along the circumferential direction. Hence we are considering as a 2-dimensional problem. The stress or strain in the circumferential direction can be calculated by using stress along radial direction and theta direction or z direction. That's also possibility there. That's why many 3-dimensional fluid problems in engineering exhibit symmetry about axis of rotation. So in this case, axis of rotation is z. So we are considering the 3-dimensional problems. So exhibit symmetry about the axis of rotation. Cylinder is the best example for the axis of rotation, and conical object is also again comes under axis of rotation. The body is 3-dimensional, but geometry of the body and loading are not function of circumferential directions. I am talking about the circumferential direction or along the theta direction. So loading, suppose load is acting here at 100 Newton, here also 100 Newton, here also 100 Newton, here also 100 Newton. That's why it is same. The body is 3-dimensional, but geometry of the body and loading are not a function of circumferential direction. The body can be analyzed using 2-dimensional technique. So even though you are the cylindrical object or pipe carrying the high pressure fluid is a 3-dimensional object, but still when you come to finite element analysis, those problems can be considered as an axisymmetry problem. So we can neglect one dimension. That means instead of going for 3-dimensional analysis, we can go for special 2-dimensional element. That element is considered as an axisymmetric element. That means special 2-dimensional element are called the axisymmetric element. The geometry of the body and loading are not function of the circumferential direction. The loading is not a function. Loading is there along the circumferential direction. If load is acting here is 100 Newton, here also 100 Newton, here also 100 Newton, it is here also 100 Newton. It is a independent of theta. So suppose load is acting here is 100 Newton, here it is 500 Newton, it is not a function of theta. So as theta changes, the loading also changes. In such type of problems are not belongs to axisymmetry problems. So we have axisymmetry considered. There are 3 coordinates. One is radial direction. So one more is circumferential direction, that is theta. So one more is longitudinal direction, that is a cylindrical coordinate. You can imagine the cylinder. So one is radial direction, one is z direction. So one more is the circumferential directions. So now we have to consider any problems, three-dimensional problem as an axis symmetric problem, it should satisfy the three conditions. So one is boundary symmetric about boundary should be symmetric, the loading should be symmetric, geometry should be symmetric. Those things are explained here. The required condition for a problem to be axis symmetric are as follows. So first one is the problem domain must possess an axis of symmetry. The geometry is considered, it should possess the axis of symmetry, which is conventionally taken as a z-axis. If you consider cylinder, the cylinder is symmetric about z-axis or longitudinal axis. That is, the domain is geometrically a solid of revolution. The solid of revolution is nothing but, imagine we have one rectangle. If you rotate the rectangle about the z-axis, so we'll get cylinder. That is nothing but solid of revolution. That means by revolving the rectangle, we'll get the cylinder. That is about a domain is geometrically a solid of revolution. The second condition is boundary condition. The boundary conditions are symmetric about the axis of revolution. Thus, all boundary conditions are independent of the circumferential coordinate theta. So that means, suppose if you fix this particular corner, left corner of the cylinder, if you don't fix on the right side corner, it is not symmetric boundary condition, because only left side of the object or a pipe is fixed, not on the right side of the pipe. If it is fixed on the left side as well as right side, it is the boundary condition is symmetric. If you fix on the back side and front side, again it is a symmetric. That means, so whenever considering any problem as a axis symmetric problem, you have to see not only the geometry, you have to consider the boundary condition also. That's again, boundary condition is again independent of the circumferential axis theta, coordinate theta. And third one is, it is related to the loading condition. All loading conditions are symmetric about the axis of revolution. All loading conditions are symmetric about the axis of revolution. Thus, they are also independent of circumferential coordinates. The circumferential coordinate is nothing but, so now this is the circumference, theta is, let it be 0 here, theta is 90, theta is 180, theta is 270, theta is 360 here. So here, suppose if loading is acting is 100 Newton, here also it is 100 Newton, here also it is 100 Newton, here also it is 100 Newton, then only you can say that the loading is the symmetric. Irrespective of the angle theta, the loading is symmetry. Same thing is given here. All loading conditions are symmetric about the axis of revolution. Thus, they are also independent of the circumferential coordinate. Circumferential coordinate is nothing but theta. So when theta is equal to 0, so loading is 100 Newton. Theta is equal to 90, again loading is 100. Whether theta is equal to 180, again loading is 100. So 100 Newton. Theta is equal to 270, again loading is 100. So theta is equal to 360, again loading is 100. So that means if all three conditions, one is loading condition, so one is boundary condition, one more is geometry, when all are symmetric, then such type of problem can be analyzed in finite element analysis as axis symmetric problem. So instead of considering as a three-dimensional problem, same thing is given. If the above conditions are satisfied, the displacement field is independent of the tangential coordinate theta. The displacement is field at theta is equal to 0, the deformation will have to be 1 mm. The theta is equal to 90, again the radial direction, the deformation is 1 mm. So theta is equal to 180 degree, again deformation is same 1 mm. So then we can say that displacement is again independent of the tangential coordinate or circumferential coordinate theta. Hence, the stress analysis is mathematically a two-dimensional, even though physical problem is three-dimensional. We are considering the cylinder. So even though object is three-dimensional object, still it can be considered a special case of two-dimensional element. Special case of two-dimensional element is nothing but axisymmetric element. Because of total symmetry about z-axis, all the deformation and stresses are independent of rotational angle theta. At theta is equal to 0, stresses is that will be 100 megapascal. Theta is equal to 90 also, it is 100 megapascal. Theta is equal to 180 also, it is 100 megapascal. That is stress also independent of the circumferential direction or theta. So thus the problem need to be looked as a two-dimensional problem in RZ plane. So we have R plane, the radial direction, and one more is Z direction, vertical plane. Combining R and Z, we can get RZ plane that I am going to show it now. RZ plane I'll show here. This is, we have hatched section. This is RZ plane. This is RZ plane. You are analyzing only RZ plane, not the theta directions. Now strain and displacement in axisymmetry. You have the axisymmetric triangular element. At node 1, the coordinates are R1, Z1. At node 2, R2, Z2. The node 3 coordinates are R3, Z3. Those are the coordinates like X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and X3, Y3. For axisymmetric triangular element, R1, theta 1, that already I have shown here somewhere in the previous problem. I have shown those coordinate system. Here we have seen R1, Z1, R2, Z2, R3, Z3. So those are the coordinates, not X1, Y1, X2, Y3, X3, Y4. We have totally different the geometry for axisymmetry. So now we know that U is equal to NQ. So N is shape function vector, N1, N2, N3, because there are three nodes, we have N1, N2, N3. So U is displacement along the R direction. The displacement along R direction is given by U1, U2, and U3. Those are the displacement along R direction. In the similar way, there is a displacement along Z direction. Z direction is nothing but vertical direction. The displacement along vertical direction is given by W1, W2, and W3. Those are the displacement. The displacement along Z direction is vertical direction is W1, W2, W3. So that means W1, N1, W1, N2, W2, N3, W3. Those are the displacement along. Suppose we know the displacement at any point all three corners. Node 1 displacement is U1, W1. Node 2 displacement is U2, W2. At node 3 the displacement is U3, W3. Suppose if you consider any point within the element, suppose we are considering a point here, the displacement is U and W. That means once you know the nodal displacement, by using interpolation function, you can get U and W. Suppose this is the point P, so having the displacement U and W. So U, we have the formula. W, you have the formula. Same formula you are using for the triangular element, where you are referred as N1, U1, N2, U2, N3, V3. And V is equal to N1, V1 plus N2, V2 plus N3, V3. But here the V is replaced by W. We have three strain. The one is strain along the radial direction, that is given by del U by del R. So del U refer to the deformation along radial direction given by the original length of the element along the radial direction. Then epsilon theta, that is the deformation along the circumferential direction. There is a deformation along the circumferential direction that is given by U by R. U refer to this deformation along the radial direction. R is nothing but a radius at that particular point. That means if you know U, epsilon R and epsilon Z, we can get the value of epsilon theta. That's why most of the time epsilon theta is an independent quantity. So epsilon R is dependent and epsilon Z is also dependent. This independent, dependent. This is independent. So now we have three strain component. Totally we have four strain component, not 6 strain component. When you come to three-dimensional analysis, we have epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z, gamma xy, gamma xyz, gamma zx. Those are the 6 strain component. When you come to axisymmetry, we have only 4 strain component. So one strain along radial direction, and one more strain component along theta direction. So one more strain component along z direction. So one more strain component, shear strain component along RZ plane. Shear strain component is along the plane. So now this is the, for our derivation purpose, you are considering the small, imagine you have a conical object. Imagine it is a power plant cooling tower. It is a conical shape. This is having shape. It is only the cross-sectional view. So if you consider the small strip here, it is having the radius dr. That the dimension along the radial direction. This is the radial direction. Dimension along radial direction is given by dr. The dimension along z direction is given by dz. This is the dz. So dr is the dimension along radial direction. Dz refer to, you are considering a small strip. You are taking. Imagine you are taking one small brick out of this tower. So in the radial direction, its thickness is dr. In the z direction, its thickness is dz. So now we can see figure A. This is the figure A. Cross section of an axis symmetry body. Imagine we have conical axis symmetric body. We have taken the cross section. So figure B. This is the figure B. Differential element in the RZ plane. So you are considering we have, this is the RZ plane. This is R direction and this is Z direction. So this is RZ plane. You are considering a small differential element in the RZ plane having dimension dr, and one more dimension is dz. And if you consider the third diagram, the differential element in r theta plane. This is r direction. This is circumferential direction. This is the circumference. If you see from the top, we can see the thickness of the cylinder or see thickness of the conical tower, conical cooling tower. You can see that is the thickness. So thickness in the radial direction. This is hollow part. This is hollow part. So imagine we have the brick structure here, brick structure. So having the thickness dr. This is theta. This is angle d theta. This radius is r. Then this arc length is given by r d theta. But so along the radial direction, there may be a small amount of deformation. The original dimension radius is r. So radius is increased because of the internal pressure, etc., etc. by small amount u. The final radius is r plus u. Before application of the internal pressure, the radius is r. After application of the internal pressure or high pressure fluid flows inside, the radius is increased by a small amount. It is given by ru. This circumferential length, this arc length is now r plus u into d theta. The before application of any pressure, the arc length, this arc length is r into d theta. After application of the pressure, there is a small increase in radius. I am talking of the inner radius. The small increase in radius is given by r plus u. What the original radius is r, increase in radius is given by u. Then arc length become r plus u into d theta. So now if you consider outside the surface, imagine you have tall chimney, you are seeing the outside surface. The outside surface of the radius is increased by small amount. So u plus du. The original radius is capital, let it be capital letter R. So original radius is increased by small amount u plus du. Du is del R by, we have the formula for du that we'll discuss. So one is u is the displacement, the displacement along radial direction. Imagine this is the radial direction. Corresponding displacement is u is the displacement along radial direction. W is the displacement along axial direction or z direction. This is the z direction. So now radial strain is given by the original length in the radial direction is given by, this is the radial strain. The original strength, original length or original dimension in the radial direction. This is nothing but a thickness of the wall. The thickness of the wall is dr. So change in dimension is, we have the change in dimension. Change in dimension is given by here. So original dimension is the change, radial strain is equal to the change in dimension along radial direction. The change in dimension is along the radial direction is u. R plus u is one dimension and one more is r plus, original dimension is r. The final dimension is u plus du. Then finally we have here, we can see here the deformation at 2 points. I am talking about the deformation about this point. I am talking about the deformation. So that means inner surface. The change in radius at the inner surface is u. The change in radius at the outer surface of the wall, you can imagine the wall, the circular wall is u plus du. So du is nothing but del u by del r into dr. That is this total refer to change in the dimension of outer wall, outer radius, minus change in dimension at the inside radius. The inside radius is original radius is r. The final change in dimension is like that is nothing but x2 minus x1 or change in length delta L. The numerator refer to delta L change in dimension. This is the change in dimension divided by original dimension, and u will get cancelled. Dr will get cancelled. So finally we end with the deformation along the radial direction, that is epsilon r. Epsilon r is nothing but strain along radial direction is given by del u by del r. The del u is nothing but the change in radius divided by the original radius for considering the small elemental strip, that is dr. Dr refer to original radius, change in radius is given by du. The axial strain is given by epsilon z. The epsilon z is, it is nothing but, so change in dimension about this point minus change in dimension about this point. Imagine this is the one point, this is the one more. So change in dimension about this point minus change in dimension about this point. Same thing is shown here. So change in dimension is deformation about the top. The deformation about the top is deformation about the bottom point. Imagine deformation about the bottom point is W. This point it is W. You are considering small strip. The deformation about this point is W plus del W by del Z into dz. So this is the deformation at the top point minus deformation at the bottom point. Imagine we have the node 1 and 2. At node 1, this is the deformation amount. At node 2, this is the deformation amount. The total length along z direction is dz. You can see here, this is the total dimension along z direction is dz. Here there is a deformation. Here also deformation. Net deformation of for the in the z direction is nothing but deformation about this point minus deformation about this point. Deformation about the top point along the z direction, this is the value. Deformation about the bottom point about this point is w. So finally we have the strain. It is an axial strain. It is not a radial strain. It is an axial strain. This strain is along z direction. Imagine we have long pipe carrying a high pressure fluid. The axial direction is nothing but a longitudinal direction. So one strain along radial direction. So one more strain along the longitudinal direction. The strain along longitudinal direction is given by del W by del Z. The strain along the R direction is given by del U by del R. Normally you are writing epsilon x is equal to del U by del x. Epsilon y is equal to del V by del y. In the similar way, epsilon R is del U by del R. Epsilon del Z is del W by del Z. Circumferential strain. So along the theta direction, you are talking about the theta direction. Here we can see the strain about this point is r into d theta. So strain about this point is r plus u into d theta. So one minus other. Strain about this point minus strain about this point gives the circumferential strain. You can see here r plus u into d theta minus r into d theta, that is divided by r d theta. You can see here this diagram. This arc length is r d theta. This arc length is r plus u into d theta. The total deformation in the tangential direction or circumferential direction is, so r plus u into d theta minus r theta divided by original dimension is r theta. Same thing is given here. R plus u into d theta minus r theta into r theta. Finally, you get u by r. Next derivation is traction force vector that we'll discuss in the next class. So now, if you have any doubt, we can discuss now.